I met my girlfriend, Isabella, at a local museum near the undergraduate school we both attended. It sounds dreamy, and honestly, so is the relationship we built together. I thought Isabella and I were perfect for each other. We shared similar interests and hobbies, and had the same goals and ambitions in life. We started as friends, developed a strong bond, became best friends, and eventually started dating. We had that classic friends to lovers story. Even though we came from completely different economic backgrounds, I believed we could make it work because we had love on our side. At first, Isabella saw it the same way. We both had the same warmth and enthusiasm to make our relationship work. We dreamed of getting married young and becoming that old, cheesy couple who held hands and travelled together. We had plans to have kids and build a life together, but somewhere along the way, Isabella's plans changed. She stopped wanting the same things, and I didn't see it coming. When we were 21, I thought our relationship was as strong as ever. I was more certain about marrying Isabella than anything else in life. So when I started working right after college graduation, I was full of hope for our future. I began saving up for the engagement ring, and within a year, I had enough. I wanted to surprise Isabella and make sure everyone knew about our engagement, except for her. I told our friends, our parents, and everyone in between to save the date for our 4th anniversary. I was over the moon and planned every detail to give Isabella the most picture-perfect day. Well, it was picture-perfect, if you consider looking like the biggest fool. The day of the party came, and everyone showed up. Everyone, except Isabella. I waited for hours, called her phone hundreds of times, and tried everything. In the end, her parents pulled me aside, looking ashamed, and handed me a note from Isabella apologizing. That was it. Her parents claimed they knew nothing, and her friends pretended the same. I was heartbroken for years, constantly wondering where I went wrong. But there's always a sunrise after sunset. I found mine in making new friends, excelling at work, engaging in fitness and hobbies, and meeting my girlfriend of 3 years, Jane. Emily and everything life has given me now bring me a stability Isabella never could. Although I once valued our relationship deeply, Isabella rarely crosses my mind these days. I was very happy, until something happened. I recently received a Facebook friend request from an almost empty bot-like account. The only reason I accepted it was because it had Isabella's full name as its display name. As soon as I accepted the request, I received a message from her. She started by apologizing, and I was stunned, unsure of what to say. So I asked the question that had always been on my mind. Why? Isabella said she was back in town to answer all my questions. She wanted to not only explain, but also show me something she had been keeping from me. I felt anxious, but curious. After talking to my therapist, my best friend, and Jane, who all encouraged me to close this chapter of my life, I decided to meet her. I hoped to finally burn this chapter, but instead, it felt like I was starting a new one with Isabella, one I wished I didn't have to. Isabella and I planned to meet at a local cafe. I arrived a few minutes early and waited. She eventually showed up with a child by her side. At first, I thought the kid might be from a relationship she had after leaving me. I didn't dwell on it and let Isabella speak. She started by apologizing again, saying she regretted leaving me. She explained that she had been pregnant with my baby and didn't want to ruin my career, so she made the difficult decision to leave. I was speechless. I couldn't find any words to say. Then she introduced me to the child, my son. She said she named him Teo, the name we had chosen together. I was astounded. I told Isabella I needed time to process everything. I wasn't rude to the kid, but I was just speechless. Isabella's response was odd. She seemed bummed by my reaction, but agreed to let me go. Since that day, she's been calling me non-stop, asking where I've been. Only Emily and my best friend know about this situation, and they've assured me they'll support me no matter what decision I make. But the truth is, I don't know what decision to take, and it's driving me crazy. I feel lost and angry instead of stepping up immediately. It's been a week since my last post. I know you guys have been asking for an update, so here it is. I ended up reaching out to Isabella and telling her before I even decided to meet the kid officially that I needed a paternity test and a few meetings with lawyers. I even visited the lawyers first to understand my legal rights in this situation. The lawyers gave me some helpful advice, which I can't share due to privacy and legal obligations. Despite Isabella's anger and irritation, she eventually agreed to the paternity test. What else could she do? Now I'm waiting for the results and preparing to accept whatever responsibilities come with it. I'll keep you updated. I wasn't planning to update so soon, but what happened yesterday deserves it. Last night I got a call from my best friend, Devin. He was drunk and calling me at 2 a.m, saying he desperately needed to talk. At first I thought it was just drunk nonsense, but as he continued, it all started to make sense. Ryan began ranting about Isabella, something he had never done before. He told me he was sure the paternity test would come back negative, even though the timeline of her pregnancy matched our time together. Naturally, I asked him why he thought that, and what he said shook me to the core. He confessed that he was the one who impregnated Isabella. He said it happened because of a stupid drunken mistake, and he encouraged Isabella to leave town when she got pregnant, promising to pay child support, which he had done until recently, losing his job. Isabella had been a stay-at-home mum, so she had no means to support their son. Their plan was for me to take over, thinking I'd accept it because Isabella was such a sensitive topic for me. I was dumbfounded. I told Ryan to talk to me when he was sober the next day, hoping it was all some sick joke. Sadly, it wasn't. Ryan visited my house and repeated the same story, apologizing profusely. He even promised to testify in court if needed. I told him his apology wasn't enough. I just wanted him to leave me alone and stay far away. He accepted and has kept his distance since. I've been devastated, but spending time with Emily has been a blessing. She has been my rock through all of this. I don't know what the future holds, but after surviving this, I feel ready for anything. For those asking for a final update, here it is. The paternity test came back, and I'm not the father. Isabella has left me alone, which has been a breath of fresh air. Ryan has taken full responsibility for their child, moving closer to Isabella and getting a job to care for him. He's tried reaching out to me, but I haven't given him the chance. The moment he decided to sleep with my girlfriend, he ended our friendship. These days, I'm focusing on self-care. Emily and I went on vacation, and it's been bliss. I feel like I'm coming back to life and finding myself loving Emily more each day. It makes me wonder if all of this happened to help me realize Emily was the true love I had always wanted. For anyone in a similar situation, get a paternity test immediately. Call the lawyers and question everything. Sitting and stewing in doubt will only drive you mad. It's up to you to untangle yourself from this mess. NTA. I sensed something was wrong the moment Isabella said she ghosted because she was pregnant. Why would she need to disappear when we both wanted to start a family young? It made no sense. Thank Emily for keeping me rational through all this. I'm a 22-year-old female from a traditional family. In my family, every woman had at least one child before turning 20. Education was never a priority. They aren't religious, but they believe a woman's only purpose is to have kids, while the man is the provider. As the oldest, I have 4 younger siblings and about a dozen cousins. I was like a second mother to my siblings and a babysitter for my cousins, which made me realize early on that I didn't want kids. At 10, I decided I didn't like kids, and 12 years later my opinion hasn't changed. Last year I had my tubes tied and didn't tell my family. They keep pushing the idea that my life is empty without kids. Despite making my stance clear many times, my family persisted. Last night, during a big family dinner, they tried convincing me again, so I shut them down in a not-so-nice way. They kept going on about how amazing being a mum is and how it's their biggest accomplishment. So I reminded them of all the times they complained about taking care of the kids, all the times they yelled at us for being kids, and all the times they said they regretted having us and that we ruined their lives. I reminded one aunt of how she would make 10-year-old me take care of her 4 kids, all under 6, just because she was bored and tired of looking after them herself. I reminded my dad of all the times he complained about the money he spent on me and my siblings. And of course, I reminded them how they kicked us out at 18 because they didn't have to care for us legally anymore. Then I said something like, "All my life you've done nothing but complain about having kids, and now you're telling me how wonderful it is. You're all hypocrites." I told them not to call me until they decided to apologize for mistreating me, and then I left. They're all very mad at me, but my siblings and cousins say I could have made my point without making them feel like bad parents. So, ITA? My mum showed up at my apartment, demanding I make a formal apology to the family and berating me for my behaviour. She went on about how disappointed she is to have raised such a selfish daughter and then left. So I sent the following message in the family group chat. "I will not apologise for defending myself and standing my ground. I've put up with you all for too long, and I'm sick of justifying my choices. I will live the way I see fit because it's my life. This so-called family never showed me any love or support. Even as a kid, I was just a free babysitter for your children. Since you will never respect me or my decisions, I see no reason to stay in contact with you. Do not contact me again. Oh, and by the way, I had my tubes tied a year ago. Goodbye." Then I blocked them all. Update. Mum showed up at my work, demanding to know how I could talk to my family that way and why I wouldn't give her grandkids. My boss had to call the police to have her removed because she was hysterical. I'm staying with my BFF for a while and looking for a new apartment and job. My landlord was very understanding and offered to help me move my things into storage before January 15th, even though my lease ends on January 7th. She said she won't charge me rent if I can move out by the 15th. She's amazing. My boss was also very supportive and offered to help me find another job. I'm seeing a lawyer tomorrow to get a restraining order against my family members. NTA. Why is it okay for grown-up relatives to force their perspectives and thoughts on the younger generation, but unacceptable for us to stand our ground? When we do, everything goes to hell. They are the ones pushing and stomping on boundaries. NTA. I love your response. It's hilarious. They certainly are hypocrites, and it's great you pointed that out. It's terrible they pressure you, and you've had to be responsible for others' kids all your life. It's definitely time for you to enjoy some freedom. I have never gotten along with my sister-in-law. I find her lazy, selfish, loud, and demanding. The only good thing about her is my 3 nephews, ages 5 to 12. My brother and sister-in-law are flat broke from their various business ventures and are really struggling. I've stepped up many times with financial assistance, for example, paying for my nephews' extracurricular activities. Recently, their financial situation got so bad that they can barely afford groceries, literally splitting peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. That was unacceptable, so I offered to buy them weekly groceries, and they accepted my help. I don't do online grocery shopping because they often get the order wrong or don't have what I want, so I go to the store. I'd get an email from my brother or sister-in-law asking for stuff, buy their groceries along with mine, and then drop everything off. It's not the money that annoys me, it's the extra work of bagging and going out of my way to drop off their stuff. I do it for my nephews, and it gives me a chance to see them. This week, I did the grocery shopping on my lunch break and texted my sister-in-law to come outside to get their stuff. My brother was out on interviews and my nephews were at school. She just said to leave the groceries on the doorstep. I replied that I'm not Uber Eats. I'm doing them a favour by feeding their family, so the least she could do is come to the door and acknowledge me. Show me some respect for the time, money and effort I put in. She wasn't in a situation where she couldn't take a minute to do this. She was probably on social media. She came to the door with a bad attitude. I told her that if my buying and dropping off groceries was too much work for her, then I wouldn't do it anymore. Later, my brother called to find out what happened. I told him, and he said my sister-in-law claimed I was volatile towards her and she didn't understand why. I told him she knew, and now I wouldn't do Christmas if she didn't apologise. She did apologise and blamed her hormones. I told her I didn't care about her hormones. I'm not going to let her disrespect me and then blame it on hormones. So yes, I'll cancel Christmas if she's going to be rude to me. I'd hate for that to happen, but that's a burden for my brother and sister-in-law, not me. Her attitude isn't new. She's always been this way. NTA. But don't punish your nephews and your brother for your sister-in-law's behaviour. You didn't have to buy their groceries and do all that extra work. Maybe instead of cutting them off, you could ask her to meet you at the supermarket and collect the groceries there. If she had a good reason for not answering the door, she would have said so. It's basic respect to come out and help, unload and say thank you when people bring you food for your kids.